Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Liberty. Through the big front window, he could see stars everywhere. It was a normal Tuesday morning in space, or at least what they called Tuesday out here. The crew was doing their usual jobs when something amazing happened. "Captain," said Lisa Park, the woman who handled all the radio calls. "Something big is coming out of hyperspace." Jake looked up from his coffee. "How big?" "Really big, sir." "Like really, really big." The space in front of them started to twist and bend. Then, like magic, huge golden ships appeared out of nowhere. There were dozens of them, all shiny and fancy-looking. They were longer than any ship Jake had ever seen, with strange curves and pointy bits sticking out everywhere. "Holy cow," whispered Pete Sullivan, who was Jake's second in command. "Look at the size of those things." The alien ships moved into a perfect line, like soldiers marching. They had bright lights flashing all over them, and they looked like they were made of pure gold. Some of the ships had weird symbols glowing on their sides. "Are those ... Are those really cape-shaped things on the back?" asked Amy Chun, the woman, who figured out where they were going. Jake squinted at the ships. "I think they are. Why would spaceships have capes?" Ben Rodriguez, who handled the weapons, started to laugh. "Maybe they think it looks cool?" "Sir," Lisa said, trying not to smile. "They're calling us on the radio." "Put them on the big screen," Jake said. The main screen lit up with the face of something that definitely was not human. It looked like a giant lizard wearing fancy clothes. The creature had yellow eyes, sharp teeth, and what looked like a crown made of jewels. Behind it, Jake could see more lizard people wearing robes and carrying staffs. "Primitive species," the lizard shouted in perfect English. "I am Admiral Zexthal of the mighty Galactic Empire. You will tell us who you are and prepare to be judged." Jake looked around at his crew. Everyone was trying very hard not to laugh. The alien was standing with his arms spread wide, and there was definitely a cape flowing behind him. Even in space, somehow the cape was moving like there was wind. "Did he just call us primitive?" Amy whispered. "And why is he yelling?" added Ben. "We can hear him just fine." The Admiral continued his speech. "For 3,000 years, the Galactic Empire has ruled this galaxy. We have conquered 1,000,000 worlds. We have crushed the dreams of countless species. Now you will bow before our might." Jake bit his lip to keep from laughing. The alien was really getting into his speech, waving his claws around and making dramatic faces. Behind him, other lizard people were nodding seriously and making scary faces at the camera. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "should I record this? Because this is amazing. Are you getting this, Lisa?" Jake asked. "Every word, sir. This is better than the movies." The Admiral was still talking. "You will now witness the power of the Galactic Empire. Behold our weapons of mass destruction. Tremble before our advanced technology. Fear our unstoppable war machines." As he spoke, the alien ships began to move in fancy patterns. They twisted and turned through space like they were dancing. Bright lights shot out from their weapons, making pretty colors against the black sky. Some ships even seemed to be shooting fireworks. "Oh my gosh," said Dr. Corinne White, the ship's doctor. "Are they putting on a show for us?" "It looks like a parade," Pete said. "A really expensive space parade." The alien ships kept moving in their patterns. They made loops and spirals and formed different shapes. At one point, they arranged themselves to look like a giant flower. "That's actually pretty impressive," Jake admitted. "How do they coordinate all those ships?" "Sir," Ben said, "their weapons are real. I'm reading serious firepower on those ships, but they're not pointing them at us. They're just showing off," Amy said. Admiral Zexthal appeared on the screen. "Again, did you see that display of power? Are you filled with terror? Do you now understand your place in the universe?" Jake looked at his crew. Everyone was grinning. He cleared his throat and spoke into the microphone. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Liberty. That was a really nice show. We come in peace and would like to talk." The Admiral blinked his yellow eyes. "Show? You think this was a show?" "This was a demonstration of superior military might." "Well, it was very pretty," Jake said. Could you do the flower thing again? My crew really liked that part. The bridge of the Liberty was completely quiet, then Amy started to giggle. Ben tried to cover his mouth, but he was laughing too. Soon everyone was trying not to laugh out loud. On the screen, Admiral Zexthel looked confused. You ... You liked it? It was amazing, Jake said honestly. How do you get all those ships to move together like that? It must take a lot of practice. The Admiral turned to talk to someone off camera. Jake could hear him whispering in a language that sounded like angry cats. When he turned back, he looked even more confused. You are supposed to be afraid, the Admiral said. All species are afraid when they see the might of the Empire. Why would we be afraid? Pete asked. You haven't done anything scary. You've just been really good at flying in formation. Dr. White spoke up. Captain, I'm reading their body language. I think they're as confused as we are, the Admiral cried again. We are the Galactic Empire. We have destroyed planets. We have enslaved entire star systems. We are the most feared force in the galaxy. That's terrible, Jake said seriously. But right now you're just talking to us. And you're doing it very dramatically. I am not being dramatic. The Admiral shouted, throwing his cape back and raising his claws to the sky. I am being appropriately intimidating. This time, the whole crew of the Liberty burst out laughing. They tried to stop, but the Admiral kept making such serious faces and dramatic gestures that they couldn't help it. Sir, Lisa said between giggles, there are more ships coming out of hyperspace. 2 more Earth ships appeared near the Liberty. The U's Defiance and the UES Horizon took positions on either side of Jake's ship. Jake, you seeing this? Came a voice over the radio. It was Captain Tony Walker from the Defiance. Please tell me you're recording this. Every second, Jake replied. Tony, meet Admiral Zexthel of the Galactic Empire. Admiral, meet Captain Walker. Is he really wearing a cape in space? Asked Captain Rachel Stone from the Horizon. The Admiral heard this and looked down at his cape. This is a symbol of my rank and authority. It's very nice, Rachel said kindly. Very ... flowy. How does it move like that in space? Amy wondered out loud. That's probably some kind of artificial gravity field, Ben guessed. Pretty advanced technology just to make a cape look cool. Admiral Zexthel was getting more and more frustrated. You are not taking this seriously. I'm offering you one chance to surrender before we destroy you. With the pretty light show? Tony asked over the radio. Those are plasma cannons. The Admiral shouted. They're very colorful plasma cannons, Rachel added. Jake could see that the alien was getting upset, but he honestly didn't know what else to say. The whole thing really did look like a performance. The ships, the lights, the dramatic speeches, even the cape. It was like someone had decided to make first contact as theatrical as possible. Admiral, Jake said, we're not trying to make fun of you. We're just not sure what you want us to do. Are you here to trade? Do you want to share technology? Are you explorers like us? The Admiral stared at them for a long moment. Then he turned off the screen without saying another word. Well, Pete said, that was interesting. Think we'll see them again? Amy asked. Oh, I'm sure we will, Jake said, looking at the golden ships still floating in space nearby. I don't think they're done with their show yet. Emperor Krellanox sat on his golden throne inside the biggest ship in the fleet. The throne room was huge, with tall pillars and shiny walls covered in pictures of all the worlds he had conquered. He had 4 eyes instead of 2, and right now, all of them were looking very angry. For 3,000 years, the same thing always happened when they met new species. First, the aliens would be scared. Then they would try to fight or run away. Finally, they would give up and become part of the Empire. It was simple, and it always worked. These humans were different. Very different. A blue light appeared in front of the throne. It was Admiral Zexthel, but not really him. It was just a picture of him being sent from his ship. Your Magnificence, the Admiral said, bowing low. I have bad news about the humans. What kind of bad news? The Emperor asked. They are laughing at us. The Emperor's 4 eyes blinked one by one. Laughing? What do you mean laughing? They think everything we do is funny. When we showed them our plasma cannons, they clapped their hands like we were entertaining them. When I told them about their doom, they asked me to do the voice again because they thought it was awesome. The Emperor stood up from his throne. This had never happened before. Are you sure you followed the right procedures? Yes, Your Magnificence, I did everything exactly as we always do. The dramatic entrance, the scary speech, the weapon display, everything. But instead of being afraid, they started laughing. On the human ships, things were very different. The 3 Earth ships were floating near each other, and the crews were all talking to each other on their radios. Everyone was having a great time. "Hey, Jake," said Captain Tony Walker from the Defiance. "Ask them if they do birthday parties. My nephew Kevin would love this." Captain Jake Morrison from the Liberty was still watching the alien ships. "They do put on quite a show. Look at all those lights." "The lizard guy's armor is pretty cool," added Captain Rachel Stone from the Horizon. "But someone should tell him about the dramatic lighting? It's a bit much." Dr. Karen White was studying the aliens from her position on the Liberty. "Captain, I've been watching their body language and listening to their voices. I think they're really confused by how we're acting." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. They expected us to be terrified. "Everything they're doing is designed to make us scared. But we're not scared, so they don't know what to do next." "Should we be scared?" asked Pete Sullivan. "Well, their weapons are real," said Ben Rodriguez. "I'm reading some serious firepower on those ships. But they're not actually threatening us with them. They're just showing off." Amy Chun was still watching the alien ships move around in space. "It really does look like a marching band routine. See how they keep making formations?" On the Emperor's ship, more bad news was coming in. Other admirals were reporting the same thing. The humans were treating the entire First Contact like it was some kind of entertainment. "Your Magnificence," said High Counselor Vexstar, a very old alien with even more fancy robes than the others. "Perhaps these humans are simply too stupid to understand what we're doing." "No," the Emperor said slowly. "I've been listening to their communications. They're not stupid. They understand exactly what we're trying to do. They just think it's funny." "But how is that possible?" asked Admiral Zexthal. "Fear is universal. All living things feel fear." Apparently not these humans," the Emperor said, back on the Liberty. The crew was getting more and more entertained. The alien ships kept doing new formations, and each one was more elaborate than the last. "Oh, look at that one," said Amy. "They made a star shape." "And now they're making a heart," added Lisa Park. "That's actually kind of sweet." "Are they trying to communicate with shapes?" asked Dr. White. "Maybe," said Jake. "Or maybe they're just really into formation flying." Captain Tony's voice came over the radio. "Jake, my crew is taking bets on what shape they'll make next. Johnson thinks they'll do a smiley face." "Tell Johnson." "He's on," Jake replied. The alien ships seemed to hear this somehow, because they actually started arranging themselves into what looked like a giant smiley face. The human crews cheered and applauded. Emperor Krelinox was getting more and more frustrated. "They're treating us like we're performing for them." "Your Magnificence," said a new voice. It was Admiral Vexron from another ship. "The humans are now making requests. They want to see us do a pyramid shape." "A pyramid?" the Emperor asked. "Yes, Your Magnificence." They said please. The Emperor looked around his throne room. All his advisors were staring at him, waiting to see what he would do. In 3,000 years of conquest, nobody had ever said please to the Galactic Empire. "Do it," he said quietly. "Your Magnificence?" Admiral Vexron sounded confused. "Do the pyramid?" "I want to see what happens." The alien ships moved into a pyramid formation. The humans cheered again and asked for a cube next. Then they wanted a triangle, then a circle. "They're actually pretty good at this," said Pete Sullivan. "It takes real skill to coordinate that many ships." Dr. White was taking notes on everything. "Captain, I'm starting to understand something about their culture. Everything they do is big and dramatic. Their ships, their clothes, their speeches, even the way they move. I think their whole society is built around making impressive displays, like peacocks, said Amy. Exactly like peacocks. They're trying to show off to impress us, but we're not reacting the way they expect. Jake nodded. So what do we do? Maybe we should try talking to them like normal people instead of treating them like a show, Dr. White suggested. But it is. A pretty good show, said Ben. On the Emperor's ship, the situation was getting worse. Reports were coming in from all over the galaxy. Word was spreading through the Empire's communication network about the humans who laughed at their mighty fleet. Your Magnificence, said High Counselor Vexstar nervously. Some of our subject species are asking questions. What kind of questions? They want to know why the humans aren't afraid. They're asking if maybe the Empire isn't as scary as we say we are. This was the Emperor's worst nightmare. The Galactic Empire ruled through fear. If people stopped being afraid, everything would fall apart. Send more ships, he ordered. We need to show these humans that we're serious. How many more ships, Your Magnificence? All of them. Send the entire fleet. As more and more golden ships appeared in space, the human crews were having the time of their lives. Instead of being frightened by the growing number of alien vessels, they were impressed by the coordination required to manage such a large fleet. This is incredible, said Captain Rachel Stone. How do they keep all those ships from bumping into each other? Advanced computer systems, guessed Ben Rodriguez. And probably a lot of practice. Jake, said Tony Walker over the radio, my engineer wants to know if they're hiring. He says he'd love to work with technology this advanced. I'll ask, Jake said with a grin. The Emperor was watching all of this through his viewing screens. The humans were not only unafraid, they were actually enjoying themselves more as more ships arrived. Some of them were even waving at the alien vessels. Your Magnificence, said Admiral Zexthel. What are your orders? The Emperor didn't know what to say. In 3,000 years, he had never faced a situation like this. The humans were treating his entire fleet like it was a friendly visit from neighbors. Try the intimidation protocols again, he said finally. Which ones, Your Magnificence? All of them. So the alien fleet began their most fearsome displays. They fired their weapons into empty space, creating huge explosions of light and energy. They projected images of destroyed planets onto the darkness of space. They broadcast the sounds of battle and destruction. The humans watched all of this with great interest. Wow, said Amy Chun. Their special effects are amazing. Is that a hologram of an exploding planet? Asked Lisa Park. The detail is incredible. And the sound effects are really good too, added Dr. White. Very realistic. Captain. Jake Morrison was beginning to realize that they might have stumbled into something important. These aliens were clearly very advanced, but they seemed to have developed along completely different lines than humans. Dr. White, he said, what do you think would happen if we just treated them like normal people? I think they might not know how to handle it, she replied. Everything they do is designed to create fear or awe. They don't seem to have a protocol for simple conversation. Then maybe it's time to write a new protocol, Jake said. He opened a channel to the alien. Fleet, Admiral Zexthel, this is Captain Morrison. That was a very impressive display. Would you like to just talk for a while? The silence that followed was so long that Jake wondered if the communication system had broken down. Finally, Admiral Zexthel's voice came through, sounding very confused. Talk? About what? About anything. Where you come from, what you like? To do, how you learned to fly ships so well. Normal conversation, another long silence. Then the Admiral asked the question that would change everything. What is normal conversation? Captain Jake Morrison smiled at Admiral Zexthel's confused question. Normal conversation is when people just talk to each other, like friends do. You ask questions, share stories, maybe tell jokes. Jokes? The Admiral asked. What are jokes? Funny. Things that make people laugh, Jake explained. Like when you asked if we do birthday parties? That was actually pretty funny. I did not ask about birthday parties, the Admiral said, sounding even more confused. No, that was Captain Walker. He was joking about hiring your fleet for his nephew's birthday party because you put on such a good show. There was a long pause. Jake could hear the Admiral talking to someone in the background in their clicking, hissing language. Your Magnificence, Admiral Zexthal was saying to Emperor Kralonox. I do not understand these humans. They speak in ways that make no sense. Maybe we should show them our real power, the Emperor replied. Deploy the planet Shapers. The alien fleet began to move again, but this time they were doing something different. A group of smaller ships broke away from the main fleet and flew toward a large asteroid that was floating nearby. Captain, said Ben Rodriguez, they're doing something to that rock. Jake watched as the alien ships surrounded the asteroid. Beams of energy shot out from their ships and touched the rocky surface. Within minutes, the rough, ugly asteroid began to change. It became smooth and round like a perfect ball. Holy cow, whispered Amy Chun. They just turned that asteroid into a perfect sphere. That's incredible technology, said Dr. Karen White. They reshaped solid rock like it was clay. That's some serious terraforming equipment, added engineer Carlos Lopez, who had come up to the bridge to watch. We could use tech like that for building colonies. Captain Tony Walker's voice came over the radio from the Defiance. Jake, did you see that? They made the asteroid into a perfect ball. We saw it, Jake replied. Pretty impressive. Can they make it into a cube? Asked Captain Rachel Stone from the Horizon. Jake thought this was a joke, but he decided to ask. Anyway, Admiral, that was amazing. Could you make it into a cube shape? Another long pause. Then, to everyone's surprise, the alien ships began working on the asteroid again. The perfect sphere slowly changed into a perfect cube, the human crews. Cheered and applauded. That's so cool, said Amy. How do they do that? Advanced matter manipulation, Carlos guessed. They're literally rearranging the molecules. Can you make it into a pyramid? Asked Lisa Park. The aliens actually did it. A cube became a pyramid, a star shape, called out someone from the Defiance. The aliens made a star, a heart. Shouted someone from the Horizon. The aliens made a heart on the Emperor's ship. Confusion was turning into something close to panic. The humans were treating their advanced terraforming technology like it was a game. Your Magnificence, said High Counselor Vexstar, they're making requests. They want us to shape the asteroid into different forms, and we're doing it. The Emperor asked, Yes, Your Magnificence. Admiral Zexthal says the humans seem pleased when we comply with their requests. But we're not supposed to please them. We're supposed to frighten them. Yes, Your Magnificence. But they don't seem to understand that. The Emperor watched the screens showing his fleet turning the asteroid into various shapes while the humans cheered and applauded each one. It was like watching his mighty war machine perform tricks for children. Deploy the fear inducers, he ordered. Your Magnificence, are you sure? The fear inducers are very dangerous. Do it, the fear inducers were. Special ships that looked different from the others. They were black instead of gold, and they had strange curved shapes that seemed to hurt the eyes just to look at them. They moved through space in ways that didn't make sense, seeming to appear and disappear. Captain, said Dr. White, something's happening. I'm reading some kind of energy field building up around us. What kind of energy field? Jake asked. I'm not sure. It's affecting the electromagnetic spectrum in ways I've never seen before. The fear inducers took positions around the 3 human ships. They began to broadcast something that wasn't sound or light, but something that was supposed to reach directly into the minds of anyone nearby. The effect was immediate, but not what the aliens expected. Whoa, said Danny Kim, the pilot of the Defiance. Anyone else feeling that weird tingly sensation? Yeah, said Pete Sullivan. It's like that massage chair at the mall, kind of relaxing. It's actually quite pleasant, agreed Dr. White. Captain, I think they're trying some sort of psychological attack, but it's having the opposite effect on us. I feel great, said Amy Chun, like I just had a really good nap. This is better than coffee, added Ben Rodriguez, all across the 3 human ships. The crews were feeling relaxed and happy. The fear inducers were designed to create terror in any species they encountered, but human brains were apparently wired differently than the aliens expected. "Admiral," Jake said over the radio, "I don't know what you're doing, but it feels wonderful. Is this some kind of stress relief therapy?" Admiral Zexville's voice came back sounding completely bewildered. "Those are fear inducers. They are supposed to fill you with terror and despair." "Well, they're not very good at it," said Captain Tony Walker. "My crew is more relaxed than they've been in months." "Can you turn it up a little?" asked Captain Rachel Stone. "It's really helping with my headache." On the Emperor's ship, the reports were getting worse and worse. "Your Magnificence," reported Admiral Zexville, "the fear inducers are not working. The humans say they feel wonderful and they want us to turn it up." "That's impossible," the Emperor said. "The fear inducers work on every species in the galaxy." "Not on humans, Your Magnificence." "Then deploy the Doom Speakers." The Doom Speakers were the Empire's most terrible weapon. They were huge black ships that looked like they were made of nightmares. They broadcast the recorded death screams of every species the Empire had ever conquered. The sound was supposed to drive listeners insane with terror. The Doom Speakers moved into position around the human fleet and began their horrible broadcast. On the Liberty, Communications Officer Lisa Park was the first to notice. "Captain, are you hearing this?" "Hearing what?" Jake asked. "It sounds like ... music, really intense music." "That's death metal," said Carlos Lopez excitedly. "And it's pretty good death metal, too." "Death metal?" Jake asked. "It's a type of human music that's supposed to sound scary and intense," Carlos explained. "But this is actually better than most of the stuff in our music library." "Can we record this?" asked Jerry from engineering over the com. "This is the best metal I've heard in years." Captain Tony Walker came on the radio. "Jake, please tell me you're recording this music." "My crew is loving it." "Music?" Admiral Zexville's voice cut in. "That is not music. Those are the death screams of 1,000 conquered worlds." "Really?" said Captain Rachel Stone. "Well, they've got great rhythm." "The bass line is fantastic," added someone from the horizon. "My crew is rating the different screams," Tony Walker reported. "That last one was definitely an 8 out of 10 for emotional intensity." "Can you play the one from about 5 minutes ago again?" asked Carlos. "That one had a really good guitar solo sound." Admiral Zexville turned off his communication in frustration. "Your Magnificence," he reported to the Emperor, "the Doom Speakers are also not working. The humans think the death screams are music and they want us to play specific parts again." Emperor Krylanox sat on his throne in complete silence for a long time. Then he spoke very quietly. "What have we encountered?" "I do not know, Your Magnificence. But they are not like any species we have ever met." "Deploy everything," the Emperor ordered. "All our weapons, all our ships, everything we have. If these humans will not fear us, then we will make them fear us." "Your Magnificence, if we deploy everything, it might be seen as an act of war." "Then so be it. The Empire cannot be laughed at." But even as he gave the order, the Emperor knew that something had changed. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Galactic Empire had encountered a species that was not afraid of them. And if the humans weren't afraid, what did that mean for the Empire's control over the rest of the galaxy? On the Liberty, Jake was beginning to understand something important. "Dr. White, I think we're dealing with a species that has built their entire civilization around intimidation." "That would explain a lot," she agreed. "Everything they do is designed to create fear or awe. But humans don't scare easily, especially when we're curious about something." "And we're definitely curious about them," Jake said, watching the alien. Ships continue their elaborate displays. "Captain," said Amy Chun, "more ships are coming, a lot more ships." Jake looked out at the growing fleet of golden vessels. "I think we're about to see everything they've got." "Should we be worried?" asked Pete Sullivan. "Maybe," Jake said, "but I'm still more interested than scared. I want to know what they're really like under all this drama." "Think they'll actually talk to us?" asked Ben Rodriguez. "I hope so," replied because I think they might be just as confused about us as we are about them. Emperor Kralanox stood in his throne room, watching hundreds of screens that showed his massive fleet surrounding the 3 small human ships. He had called every vessel in the Empire to this one place. There were over 10,000 ships now, all arranged in perfect formations around the humans. "Your Magnificence," said High Counselor Vexstar, "the entire Imperial Navy is now in position. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier we have—" "Good," the Emperor said, but his voice didn't sound confident anymore. "Surely this will make them understand." But even as he spoke, reports were coming in from across the galaxy. The news about the humans who laughed at the Empire was spreading fast. On 100 conquered worlds, people were asking questions they had never asked before. "Your Magnificence," said Admiral Vexron over the communication system, "we're getting reports from the outer colonies. Some of the subject species are asking why the humans aren't afraid of us." "What are they saying?" the Emperor asked. "They want to know if maybe the Empire isn't as powerful as we claim. A few worlds have even stopped sending their tribute payments." This was the Emperor's worst nightmare. The Galactic Empire ruled through fear. If people stopped being afraid, the whole system would collapse. "Deploy the gravity crushers," he ordered. "Your Magnificence, are you sure?" "The gravity crushers are forbidden weapons. They can destroy entire star systems. Just use them on low power. We need to show these humans what real power looks like." The gravity crushers were ancient weapons that looked like giant metal spiders. They moved through space in ways that hurt to watch, bending reality around them. When they activated, they could make gravity do impossible things. "Captain," said Dr. Karen White from her position on the Liberty, "I'm reading massive gravitational distortions. This is unlike anything I've seen before." "What does that mean?" asked Jake Morrison. "I think they're about to do something with gravity itself." The gravity crushers positioned themselves around the human fleet and began to work. Suddenly, gravity started behaving strangely. Up and down changed directions every few seconds. The human crews found themselves floating, then pressed against the walls, then floating again. "Whoa!" shouted Danny Kim from the Defiance. "This is like the world's best amusement park ride. I haven't had this much fun since I was a kid," laughed Amy Chun as she floated past the navigation station. "Captain," said Pete Sullivan, spinning. "Slowly in the air, the artificial gravity on our ship is fighting with whatever they're doing. It's creating some really interesting effects. Instead of being crushed or terrified, the human crews were having the time of their lives. They were playing games in the changing gravity, doing flips and spins that would be impossible under normal conditions." "This is amazing," called out Captain Tony Walker from the Defiance. "My crew is playing 3-dimensional soccer." "We're having a floating race," added Captain Rachel Stone from the Horizon. "Winner gets extra dessert at dinner." "Can they do this longer?" asked Carlos Lopez. "This is better than any zero-gravity simulator we've ever had." Admiral Zexthal voice came over the communication system, sounding completely defeated. "Those are gravity crushers. They are supposed to crush you with the weight of 1,000 worlds." "Well, they're not very good at crushing," said Jake, gently pushing off from the ceiling. "But they're excellent at entertainment. My engineer wants to know how you're doing this," added Tony Walker. "He's taking notes for when we get back to Earth." On the Emperor's ship, the situation was getting worse by the minute. Not only were the humans enjoying the gravity weapons, but news was spreading throughout the Empire about the species that couldn't be intimidated. "Your Magnificence," reported Admiral Zexthal, "we have a bigger problem. 3 more star systems have declared independence. They say if the humans aren't afraid of us, why should they be?" "What?" the Emperor shouted. "That's impossible. I'm afraid it's true, Your Magnificence. The humans' lack of fear is inspiring rebellion across the galaxy. Then we must make them fear us. Deploy the reality distorters." The reality distorters were the Empire's most exotic weapons. They could make reality itself behave in impossible ways. They could make people see things that weren't there, or make real things disappear. The strange black ships moved into position around the human fleet. They began to broadcast fields that twisted space and time in ways that should have driven anyone insane. "Captain," said Dr. White, "reality is becoming flexible around us." "What does that mean?" Jake asked. "Look around." Jake looked around the bridge and saw that everything was becoming strange. The walls were sometimes there and sometimes not. Colors were changing without reason. Objects were appearing and disappearing. "This is trippy," said Ben Rodriguez, watching. His weapon controls turned into flowers and then back into controls. "It's like being in a dream," added Amy Chun. "A really weird but interesting dream." "Captain," said Lisa Park, "my communication console just turned into a butterfly, then back into a console. This is the strangest thing I've ever seen." Instead of being terrified by the reality distortions, the humans were fascinated. They were studying the effects, trying to understand how the aliens were changing the laws of physics. "This is incredible technology," said Carlos Lopez. "They're actually manipulating the structure of space-time itself." "I'm recording everything," said Dr. White. "The scientific implications are amazing." "Can you make my coffee cup turn into a sandwich?" asked Pete Sullivan. "I'm getting hungry." The aliens actually tried to do it. Pete's coffee cup briefly became a sandwich, then turned back into a coffee cup. "That's so cool." Pete said, "Can you do it again?" Emperor Krelanox was running out of options. He had used every weapon in the Empire's arsenal, and the humans were treating each one like a new form of entertainment. "Your Magnificence," said High Counselor Vexstar, "perhaps we should consider a different approach." "What kind of different approach?" "Maybe we should try talking to them." "Actually talking, not just making speeches." "The Empire does not talk to unconquered species," the Emperor said. "We conquer them." "But Your Magnificence, what if we can't conquer them? What if there are some species that simply cannot be conquered through fear?" The Emperor looked at all the screens showing his massive fleet. 10,000 ships, the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, and 3 small human vessels were still floating peacefully in the middle of it all, with their crews apparently having the time of their lives. "Your Magnificence," came Admiral Zexthel's voice, "the humans are asking if we can combine the gravity effects with the reality distortions. They want to see what happens when we use both weapons at the same time." "They want us to use both weapons?" the Emperor asked. "Yes, Your Magnificence. They say it would be totally awesome." "What does totally awesome mean?" "I believe it means they would enjoy it very much." The Emperor sat down heavily on his throne. In 3,000 years of conquest, nobody had ever asked him to use more weapons because they would enjoy it. "Do it," he said quietly. "Your Magnificence, combine the weapons. Let's see what happens." The gravity crushers and reality distorters worked together, creating effects that had never been seen before. Space twisted, time flowed backward, and gravity pointed in 6 directions at once. The human crews were delighted. "This is the best day ever," shouted someone from the Defiance. "I'm floating through a rainbow that tastes like music," called out another voice. "My coffee cup just turned into a small blue elephant that can sing," reported Pete Sullivan. "Can we take some of this back to Earth?" asked Carlos Lopez. "The science department would love to study this." Emperor Krelanox listened to all of this and realized something that changed everything. The humans weren't just unafraid of the Empire's power, they were genuinely curious about it. They wanted to understand it, study it, and learn from it. "Your Magnificence," said Admiral Zextel, "what are your orders?" The Emperor looked at all his advisors, then at the screens showing the human ships. For the first time in 3,000 years, he didn't know what to do. "I need to think," he said finally. "Stop all attacks. Just ... Stop everything. Your Magnificence?" "I said stop all ships, cease all hostile actions. I need to understand what we're dealing with." As the alien weapons powered down, the humans floated back to normal gravity and reality returned to its usual rules. But something had changed. The Empire had shown the humans everything they had, and the humans had responded with curiosity instead of fear. "Captain," said Dr. White to Jake Morrison, "I think we just witnessed something historic." "What do you mean?" "I think we just broke their entire system. They don't know how to deal with people who aren't afraid of them." Jake looked out at the massive alien fleet surrounding them. "Maybe it's time we showed them there's another way." "What kind of other way?" "Friendship," Jake said simply. "Maybe they just need to learn how to be friends instead of conquerors." "Think they'd be interested in that?" "I don't know," Jake said. "But I think it's worth finding out." The silence in space was strange after all the noise and chaos. The 10,000 ships of the Galactic Empire floated quietly around the 3 human vessels. For the first time in hours, nobody was shooting weapons or creating special effects. Captain. Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the Liberty, looking out at the massive alien fleet. He had been thinking about everything that had happened, and he had an idea. "Lisa," he said to his communications officer, "open a channel to Admiral Zexthal." "Channel open, Captain." "Admiral, this is Captain Morrison. Thank you for stopping. The weapons, that was quite a show you put on." Admiral Zexthal's voice came through the speakers, sounding tired and confused. "Captain Morrison, I do not understand your species." "I know," Jake said kindly. "We don't understand yours either. But maybe we could try to figure it out together." "Figure it out together? What does that mean?" "It means we could talk. Really talk, not speeches or threats or demonstrations. Just 2 people having a conversation." There was a long pause. Jake could hear the Admiral talking to someone in the background. "Captain Morrison," the Admiral said finally, "I have spoken with Emperor Krellinox. He wishes to speak with you directly." "I'd be honored," Jake said. The main screen lit up with a new face. This alien was larger than Admiral Zexthal, with 4 eyes instead of 2 and even fancier clothes. But he looked tired and confused, not scary. "I am Emperor Krellinox," the alien said. "I have ruled the Galactic Empire for 3,000 years. In all that time, I have never encountered anything like your species." "Nice to meet you, Emperor," Jake said. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison. We're explorers from Earth. We're just curious about the galaxy and the people in it." "Curious," the Emperor repeated the word like he was trying to understand it. "You are not afraid of us." "No, we're not afraid. Should we be? Everyone is afraid of us." "That is how the Empire works. We show our power, and other species surrender." Jake leaned forward in his chair. "But why? What happens after they surrender?" "After they surrender?" The Emperor blinked his 4 eyes. "They become part of the Empire. And then what?" Then they are part of the Empire." "But what's the point?" Jake asked. "What do you do with all these conquered worlds?" The Emperor was quiet for a long time. Finally he said, "We conquer more worlds. That's it." "You conquer worlds, so you can conquer more worlds?" "Yes, that is what the Empire does." Jake looked around at his crew. They were all listening to this conversation with great interest. Dr. Karen White was taking notes, and Amy Chun was shaking her head in amazement. "Emperor," Jake said gently, "what do you actually want?" "Not what the Empire wants, but what you want." This question seemed to surprise the Emperor more than anything else that had happened. "What I want? I am the Emperor." "I want what the Empire wants." "But you're a person, not just a title. You must want something for yourself." "I want—" The Emperor started, then stopped. "I want the Empire to be strong." "Why?" Because Emperor looked confused. "Because it has always been strong." Captain Tony Walker's voice came over the radio from the Defiance. "Jake, can I ask the Emperor a question?" "Go ahead, Tony." "Emperor, do you enjoy conquering?" "Worlds? Enjoy?" The Emperor repeated the word like he had never heard it before. "I do not understand." "Do you have fun doing it?" "Does it make you happy?" The Emperor was quiet for a very long time. "I do not know what happy means." This made all the humans very sad. Dr. White spoke up from her position on the Liberty. "Emperor, happiness is when you feel good about something. When something makes you smile or laugh or feel warm inside." "I have never felt warm inside," the Emperor said quietly. That's terrible, said Captain Rachel Stone from the horizon. Everyone should feel happy sometimes. What makes you happy? The Emperor asked. Lots of things, Jake said. Learning new things, meeting new people, helping others, spending time with friends. Friends? People you like and who like you back, people you enjoy being around. The Emperor was quiet again. The Empire has no friends. We have subjects and enemies. That sounds lonely, said Amy Chun. What is lonely? It's when you feel sad because you don't have anyone to share things with, Amy explained. I think I understand lonely, the Emperor said very quietly. I have felt that way for a very long time. Jake had an idea. Emperor, would you like to be friends with us? Friends with you, is that possible? Of course it's possible. Friends are people who like each other and want to help each other. But we are enemies. You are supposed to fear us or fight us? Says who? Asked Captain Tony Walker. Says ... says the Empire. Well, maybe the Empire is wrong, said Captain Rachel Stone. Maybe there's a better way. Admiral Zextel's voice came through the communication system. Your Magnificence, the subject worlds are watching this conversation. They are asking if they can be friends with the Empire instead of subjects. Friends with the Empire? The Emperor asked. Yes, Your Magnificence. They want to work together instead of being conquered. Jake smiled. Emperor, what if instead of conquering worlds, you made friends with them? What if you used all your amazing technology to help people instead of scare them? Help people? Sure. You could use your terraforming equipment to make dead planets livable. You could use your advanced medicine to cure diseases. You could use your transportation technology to help people travel between worlds. The Emperor's 4 eyes were wide with wonder. We could do that? Of course you could. You've got incredible technology. You could make the galaxy a better place. For everyone, but then what would be the point of the Empire? The point would be to make people happy, said Dr. White. To help them live better lives. And people would want to join an empire like that, added Pete Sullivan. Not because they're scared, but because they want to be part of something good. The Emperor looked around at his advisors. High Counselor Vexstar, what do you think? Your Magnificence, I think these humans have given us much to consider. We have been conquering for so long that we forgot why we started. Admiral Zextel, what do you think? Your Magnificence, I am tired of frightening people. I would like to try making them happy instead. The Emperor stood up from his throne. Captain Morrison, I would like to learn about friendship. That's wonderful, Jake said. The first thing about friendship is that friends help each other. Is there anything we can help you with? Yes, the Emperor said. Can you teach us how? To be happy? We'd be glad to, Jake said. And maybe you can teach us about your technology. We could learn from each other. That sounds... The Emperor paused, searching for the right word. That sounds good. It sounds like the beginning of a beautiful friendship, said Captain Tony Walker. Over the next few hours, something amazing happened. The massive Imperial fleet began to change. Instead of staying in threatening formations, the ships spread out in peaceful patterns. The humans were invited aboard the alien vessels, and the aliens visited the human ships. Captain Jake Morrison found himself in the Emperor's throne room, sharing a meal with the ruler of the galaxy. The food was strange but delicious, and the conversation was even better. Captain Morrison, the Emperor said, I have learned something today. For 3,000 years I thought power meant making others afraid. But you have shown me that real power is making others happy. That's right, Emperor. And happy people are much better friends than scared people. I would like to try this friendship with the entire galaxy, the Emperor said. Will you help? U.S.? Of course we will, Jake said. That's what friends do. As Jake looked around the throne room, he saw alien advisors and human crew members talking and laughing together. Admiral Zextel was showing Amy Chun how the ship's navigation worked, while Dr. White was discussing alien medicine with the Imperial doctors. You know, Emperor, Jake said, I think this is going to work out very well. I agree, my friend, the Emperor said. and Jake could see that the alien was smiling for the first time in 3,000 years. Outside, the greatest fleet in the galaxy was no longer an instrument of conquest. It was becoming something new. A force for friendship and cooperation. And it all started because a group of humans couldn't stop chuckling at what they thought was the universe's most elaborate performance. The galaxy would never be the same, and everyone agreed that was a very good thing.